Hello folks, we're just recovering from a horrendous cold that's been doing the rounds. I think I'm over the worst of it, but apologies for the croaky voice. It's a filthy day outside today, so I've decided to make the first of the pomegranate recipes using the molasses I made a couple of weeks ago. And because it's so horrible, I'm going to make us some cookies to cheer us up. So I've decided to make flapjacks. Now to us Brits, those are sort of oaty biscuits as opposed to pancakes, which is what American people, I believe, think of as flapjacks. Starting with the butter, I need 150 grams. There we go. Into the pan. Next comes 100 grams of sugar. I like brown. And finally, 4 tablespoons of the pomegranate molasses that are made a couple of weeks back. Okay, so I'm just going to fire this up and let all the ingredients melt together. Give them a wee stir from time to time. And away we go. I love this recipe because it's so quick and easy. Even if you're not feeling up to a whole big cook-off, you can whip up a little batch of these and cheer yourself up. So you just want to melt the butter and the sugar and let the whole mixture bubble away for a couple of minutes. And I'm just stirring mostly at the edges, which heat up quicker to prevent anything from sticking and burning. And I want it to be hot enough to bubble right across the pan, not just around the edges. That way the butter gets incorporated into the other ingredients and doesn't end up with the biscuits feeling greasy. So I just let it bubble away for a minute or so. And then I can turn off the heat. So now I'm just going to measure out 300 grams of porridge oats. That's the other reason why I love this recipe, is not only is it quick, but it's gluten-free, which means I can eat the cookies at the end of it as well. Most gluten-intolerant people can handle porridge oats. They contain avenine instead of gluten, which does a similar job to the gluten, but seems to be less harmful. The problem is finding oats that are not contaminated by other grains in the milling process. I seem to manage to get them okay if I go to my local health food store, however, so I hope you're as lucky as me. Now I'm just going to add the oats into the hot mixture. Give it all a good stir so that they all get coated. I don't want to see any dry pieces in my pot. They all want to be covered in the gooey mix. And then this time around, I'm just going to add a handful of pieces of dried figs. These are optional, and it could be any dried fruit or nuts or seeds, just to give it an extra texture and a little je ne sais quoi. These figs came off our own tree just outside my window in the summertime, and I dried them myself, and there's a whole box of them ready to chuck into all of my Christmas recipes, especially the cakes. It's very satisfying to eat food that you've grown yourself, and we are lucky enough to live in a climate where we have figs, olives and lemons dripping from the branches of our trees. There we are. Now I'm just going to pour it into a grease tray, and I have a piece of Teflon paper at the bottom of here. I love this stuff. It's as good as greaseproof paper, better I would say, but it's recyclable and I use the same piece over and over. I have a piece cut exactly to the size of each of my baking trays, and it makes life so simple when I'm baking. And now it's just a question of spreading the mix all the way to the corners. Squeeze it down nicely with the spatula so all the bits glue nicely together, and it'll help when you come to cut them into squares to keep the pieces all together rather than crumbling into small crumbs. There we are. And now I'm ready to just fire them into the oven on 180 degrees C for about 10 to 12 minutes until lovely and golden. So they've had 10 minutes. They're looking lovely and golden, and I'm just going to take them out and allow them to cool for probably another 10 minutes, and then I'll mark out the squares. So I'm just going to mark off the squares. They've been sitting for about 10 minutes or so. I use a table knife because that way I don't cut through the Teflon paper that's underneath them. And this time I've managed to make one row of big ones for the greedy people. They're fully cool now, and all I have to do is score around the outside and get them out of here. And the final, most essential task of all, quality control.